Hello everybody, welcome to Kavish IAS, converting possibilities into reality. In this session, we are going to be continuing with the discussions of the Sustainable Development Goals. And in this particular session, we are going to be talking about the SDG goal number 6, which is about the clean water and sanitation. So, when we are talking about clean water and sanitation, the most important and prominent explanation or the definition that the United Nations has provided is that clean water is a basic human right. We all know that having access to clean water is the most basic and fundamental human need and also human right, to have a very healthy standard of living, and this is something that should be accessible to all. There is sufficient fresh water on this planet to achieve it. That is what the statistics say. And however, due to the poor infrastructural issues and investment and plannings and every other issue that's going on, many any other issues, millions of people, mostly children and women, they die from the diseases associated with inadequate water supply, sanitation, and hygiene. So, as we all know, that the most vulnerable sections of society include the children and women. So, when we are talking about any crisis, and when we are talking about especially the water crisis that is happening right now, children and women or and also the elderlies, they are the worst sufferers. And if we are talking about children, then we can say that according to UNICEF, according to a UNICEF report, it is said that almost 1 out of 5 children, right, 1 out of 5 children, they are residing in highly water stressed areas of the world. This is a global statistics, so one can understand that it's not a very healthy place that we are heading towards. So as we all know that sanitation is a very key priority area in India right from the ancient times. Why ancient times? Because we have seen that even during the Indus Valley, IVC, Harappan civilization, the drainage system, the drainage engineering was absolutely astounding. So we can say that the Indus Valley civilization being one of the oldest civilizations of the world, India has always prioritized on the sanitation prospect. However, with the increasing population and urbanization, the importance of including sanitation in ensuring healthy well-being has taken a backseat. And there are issues like the growing industries that are taking place. So there is more pollution, there is more resource scarcity, which is why we can say that maintaining a good standard of water is something that we are not able to achieve or access at the current times. So we will see in details what this particular sustainable development goal number 6, that is the clean water and sanitation, this is talking about. Here to remind you that the sustainable goals that we are studying here, if you are new to this channel, if you are new to this video, then please go and check out all the other 5 sustainable goals that I have covered in the previous videos in the same channel. And when we are talking about the sustainable development goals, we are talking about the 17 SDGs, right? The 17 SDGs, and they were promised in the Paris Climate by the United Nations back in 2015. Paris Climate Agreement, right? And here there were certain negotiations that were being made in order to achieve certain goals. And these goals were mainly categorized into 17 parts. And it was said that for the earth to become healthy, for the earth to become a more sustainable place for everybody to live, for the earth to remain a more sustainable place for everybody to live in, we have to achieve these 17 goals by the year of 2030. So, in a span of 15 years, we have to achieve these 17 targets that are included inside these goals. So we can say that in a way the sustainable development goals, the 17 of them are absolutely interrelated with each other, which means that improvement in SDG 1 will have a direct consequence on improvement of the SDG 2 and vice versa, and this goes for all the goals that we are talking about. So currently in this session we are going to be discussing and focusing on the goal number 6, which is the clear water and sanitation. So the aim of the sustainable goal number, development goal number 6, is to ensure that there is enough access to water and adequate sanitation for all. So there are 8 targets that are to be achieved under this goal, and there are 11 indicators that are provided by the UN to evaluate the performance of all the countries and also the states that are in the countries to achieve, to evaluate that where they stand in the improvement charts. So what are the targets under this goal? The main targets are to ensure safer drinking water for all, providing sanitation facilities to all, better quality water, of course, because just having enough quantity of water is not enough. Okay, we need to have a good quality of water accessible for all sections of society so that we can promote inclusivity, right? And to promote efficient water usage, right, we also have to check that there is less and less, almost zero water wastage. That is something we can check. We can use certain methods like the age old methods of rainwater harvesting, where we develop a circular economical system. Okay, so one of the ways of promoting efficient resource usage, adopting integrated water management, just like what I said, and ensuring that healthy ecosystems through the international cooperation and local community participation. So all these targets will be achieved by two means. One is domestical changes and the second one is the external changes. So what can we do? We can, of course, exactly like how we have signed this Paris climate. So in a way, we have all the countries of the world, almost 195 countries of the world, have all decided to sign this particular treaty so that we can all stay binded to the agreements of the treaty and any other treaties, so that we can we should be able to use the natural resources that are available in our country in the most effective and efficient manner. Okay, and another thing is to promote the same thing domestically in a localized manner. If we are talking about a particular district or a particular state, then there has to be enough local community participation. So these are the targets that the UN has uh, enlisted. So these are all the targets that we are going to be achieving in the SDG goal number 6. So let us just have a look at the water crisis that is happening all over the world. So currently almost about 40% of the world population is affected by lack of water. So you can understand that 40% is a really high number. And apart from that, if I just zoom into the picture, then we can see that the reddish, uh, the red coded areas, these are the red coded areas. We can see these are the most water stressed regions of the world. Okay, there is red, there is maroon coated areas. These are the highly water stressed areas. One can say that the highest water stressed areas in the world, according to the same UNICEF report, is that there is extreme water crisis in the West Central Asia, which is around 31%. Okay, around 31% of the water crisis is happening in West Central Asia. And then also we cannot forget the South Asian part. South Asia, there you can see in this portion, you can see in the northern Indian portion, there is again we can see a good crisis of water over there. Also in the Middle East, so we can say that the Asian situation is not very good. It does not look good. So 40 to 45% of the world population is affected by the lack of water. Again, we can say that the sub-Saharan Africa and major portions of South Asia, just like I said, okay, 31%, 31% of West Central Africa, and then the Southeast Asia, South Asia is also facing drastic effects of water crisis, and which is why we are also seeing some famines and malnutrition in children that are happening. So more than 890 million people live in these regions where open defecation is still occurring. So open defecation is again another huge issue. Okay, so according to a recent WASH report, 15% of open defecation is still happening in India. Okay, this is our Indian statistics. This is Indian stat, not global stat. But anyway, this is also a good representation of what is happening in the African and Asian nations. So also another thing is that the 80% of wastewater is directly emptied into the oceans and rivers without treatment. So almost half treated water or absolutely untreated water directly goes back into the same oceans and rivers. So you can understand that this is absolutely a bad scenario. And by 2040, what I just recently said, that in the previous slide I just said that by right now, one out of five I recently said that by the UNICEF report, 1 out of 5 children worldwide are living in extremely high water stressed areas. By 2040, this is going to increase. This is going to increase by 5%. You can see, okay, 1 out of 4 children are going to be living in highly water stressed areas. Okay, so this is the situation all over the globe. Then we will see the Indian scenario. So despite having 17% of the world population, India has, one of the, it has toppled over China, and it has become the most populous country in the world now. So India has the most population currently in the world, but only 4% of the world's freshwater resources. So you can understand the water crisis that is generating out of just this sheer statistics. And the yearly water availability has decreased by 75% in the last 75 years, and a high proportion of population do not have access to improved sanitation. What is improved sanitation? Improved sanitation is like a good quality of sanitation facility is not available. For example, if we are talking about the sanitation infrastructure, then we can say that yes, there are infrastructures that are built, there are some toilets and latrines that are being built, and the government funding is there and government support is there and all of that. But those latrines and toilets are just not enough, or they are not made of durable material, they are easily breakable or they are easily tarnished. So somehow improved sanitation is still something which is not achieved in the present situation. As many as 256 of India's 700 districts have reported critical overexploited groundwater levels. This is according to the Central Groundwater Board data. Okay, so one can also understand that the groundwater reserve is also decreasing at a alarming rate. So 256 out of India's 700 districts, they have critical or almost overexploited groundwater regions. So in India, like especially the Punjab, Haryana, these regions are the most users, they are the highest users of groundwater. Okay, due to the wheat revolution, the wheat cultivation that has taken place over there, due to the green revolution, there was extremely high pressure of generating good amount of agricultural production from those states, and this has resulted in extreme irrigation, extreme exploitation of the groundwater levels. The levels have gone down significantly. Also, the Composite Water Management Index has projected that India's water demand is going to grow twice the available supply by 2030. Here we also have this particular data, and this data talks about the access to the piped water. So we can see that there are certain states where a good percentage has been reached in terms of access to piped water, and mind you, this statistics only considers the rural households, and this percentage reflects that the amount of households and percentage of households which have access to piped water supply. We can see that there are states like Sikkim, and there are states like somehow Gujarat has a very good statistics, but if we are considering all the other states, okay, and this is the statistics which considers only the rural households, not the urban households. So the rural households have extremely bad situation when it comes to having piped water supply. So when we see the statistics, we can see some absolutely badly performing states. For example, the Telangana, Andhra Pradesh regions, these are quite large states, but still they do not have, the rural households don't have good access to piped water. When we are talking about a state like Kerala, which is generally it fares really good in terms of the development indexes, still it has only 16 or 17 percentage of rural households with good piped water supply. Then we have severely underperforming states, the highly populated states, and also the large states of Uttar Pradesh, where you can see only 1.33%, West Bengal, Meghalaya, and even these states. So we can understand that the situation is pretty bad. So obviously there is a lot of scope for improvement. Then we will go to the constitutional and the legal provisions which are related to having an access to clean water and sanitation. First of all, we are going to consider the fundamental right, the article number 21. As we know that the article number 21, it talks about having the right to life. So we have under this article, obviously, we have the right to access to clean drinking water and the right to have clean environment, right to health. These things are included in the fundamental right, article number 21. Apart from that, we also have the entry number 56 of the union list and the entry number 17 of state list. So these two lists, this is of the central and this is of the state. So both of these lists, they discuss about water, and because it's a federal system, so of course there are certain subjects which the union list, the union government, they deal with, and there are certain other scenarios like the development and construction and the maintenance of the dams, they are controlled, they are supervised by the state government. Then we have the provisions like it's a statutory provision, the Prevention and Control of Pollution Act, which was made in 1974. We also have the sanitation thing, and sanitation can be read as a part of Article 47, which provides that it's the duty of the government to raise the standards of living. So of course this again goes back to the fundamental right situation. And there is another provision called the Prohibition of Employment as Manual Scavengers and Their Rehabilitation Act. So as we know that the issue of manual scavenging is still prevalent in the Indian societies. So as Indian societies, of course, it's a ancient caste based rigid society. So from age old days, the task of manual scavenging, this has been done by the lower caste people, lowered and the backward caste people. So the situation currently is now that there are still, I mean, even some days ago, there were certain reports that this many number of people died due to the manual scavenging task because it's extremely harmful, extremely dangerous. There is a tremendous fatal threat to life, and many people annually they die due to this thing. So this is a direct threat to the right to life. Okay. And apart from that, it is also absolutely a disrespectful task. Okay. So this is something, these are the important provisions that in terms of constitution and as well as the legal provisions that we are endowed with. We will see what are the challenges presently which are there in securing clean water and sanitation. Most importantly, we will see that there is still ineffective wastewater management. Now, this is something that we are dealing with, and this is particularly an extremely like well fought challenge. It's something that we are still fighting. That is because with the current increase in population, there is population explosion, not explosion, but rather a gradual increase in population is still happening, which means that urbanization is still happening. Okay, urbanization, urbanization is happening, industrialization is happening, and due to all these factors, the wastewater is actually having no place to go. So there is more and more possibility of wastewater being left untreated, or rather the wastewater is actually going straight to the rivers. And mind you that these are the same rivers. If we talk about the Ganga riverine system, it's the most prominent of the river system in northern India, and it is the same river which is treated in such a sacred and holy manner. People still use Ganga water in their homes, for purification purposes, and it is in this rivers only that the wastewater, the untreated wastewaters, are released. So one can imagine that this is such a like a highly highly difficult challenge that is still there. So India definitely needs to plan a very decentralized process of treating this wastewater. Then we definitely have the increasing climate risk. As climate risk is increasing, there is there is more and more stress on water. Okay, so if the average temperature of the earth or even a place is increasing, we can see that how the heat waves are increasing every year. And it is said that the earth is going to be more warm and humid in the uh, future times. So there is this a lot of climate risk that is happening, and due to this factor, in some places of India there is extreme drought, okay, and in another places there is absolutely excessive rainfall, okay. We can see even urban cities, absolutely urban cities like Bangalore, they are facing floods. Even Chennai had huge floods that has happened, and in fact, these southern states are also facing water crisis. So this is something that, these are imposing some really bad challenges. Of course, all these points are so interrelated. So there is this issue of rising water pollution. There is this issue of the rising water pollution, obviously, because this and this is again related, because there is more and more release of the untreated wastewater. So of course water pollution will rise. There is always a threat of the arsenic waters and the cadmium, these metals are nowadays found more and more in the river systems. Also because we can see that the electronic industry and these industries are growing so rapidly, which means that as much as the gadget industry is flourishing, these all these gadgets are made up of absolutely threatful metals and uh, things, materials like like cadmium, or even lead is used in many ways. And all these harmful toxic metals, they are also getting released in the water system. So you can understand that there is a severe threat. And of course then we cannot ignore this thing, the groundwater exploitation. We just now we talked about how groundwater is absolutely overly exploited, and right now India is almost the highest country which absolutely exercises it, it utilizes the maximum, the highest groundwater. Okay, highest groundwater extraction happens in India. Then another thing is that there is lack of awareness, right? We definitely have an issue of lack of awareness. So there are so many times when we do not know where to just empty our all these waste products. So there has to be a more civic responsibility. Okay, India definitely needs to work on the civic responsibility, because as citizens we just cannot blame the government for each and everything. We must understand that we are also a part of the government. We make the government. So the government is also composed of us. So as citizens we also must have some basic awareness that for example, when we are talking about the disposal of plastic bottles or plastic cups and bags and all of these, we should be more responsible and aware when it comes to dumping these toxic materials at anywhere, any place. Generally in many situations we can see that there are some canals or water tanks which they have very less amount of water, and people dump all the garbage, all the kind of toxic chemicals and materials into those things, into those canals and tanks. So this is something that the citizens, as citizens, we can take responsibility of. There is persisting open defecation problem. Oh my god, this is one of the uh, highest issues. Like in the wash report I just said that India still has 15% of the population, they are getting involved in the open defecation. So we can see that even in the urban areas there are these men generally, they urinate at any place they can. They do not have any fixed place, even if they have some government made urinals and these places, but still they they always have the allowance to just urinate or take a dump anywhere they can. So this is one issue that India is still struggling with. Again, this issue is also related to having basic civic responsibilities. Again, exactly what I said, there is gender based sanitation insecurity. So when we are talking about the the gender based situation, definitely we need to take acknowledgement of the fact that women's menstrual health and women's menstrual health needs some specific amount of support, some specific amount of support from the government as well as the families. So uh, with the usage of bad quality water or water that is polluted and water that is unclean, it can cause many kinds of bacterial diseases. Okay, so this is something that people should keep in mind. And of course the gender insecurity is there. Like I said, that men can just urinate at any place, any road, anywhere. So a woman cannot. And this whole system of open defecation, open urination, this should be banned, this should be cancelled. But still these issues are something that has to be dealt with, and definitely these things are huge challenges. So as we know that all of these challenges that we talked about, they have a very direct consequence on the people's health, especially the health of women or children. Okay, so this is something that the government has been trying to, uh, you know, mend and amend for the last couple of years. And so now we will be talking about the government initiatives that has been taken on this regard. So we will see that something called Jal Jeevan Mission, both in the rural as well as the urban sector. This was launched in 2019. So this mission ensures that there is functionality of existing water supply systems, water quality monitoring, and grey water treatment and sustainable agriculture. So the all these processes are followed in the Jal Jeevan mission. So exactly what I said, that there should be more and more access to pipe water. We saw the poor condition of the piped water, having access to piped water in the previous slides in the rural parts of India. So one must have access to piped water. This is because this is a basic fundamental right. So not only just having access is not enough, there also has to be enough water quality checking. And again, the grey water treatment means that the water that is coming from the factories and all these harmful places, so these water must be treated before they are released into the water system in the seas and oceans. So this will also promote sustainable agriculture, and definitely if the quality of water is improved, then the entire food ecosystem that will improve, the entire food ecosystem, right? So if food ecosystem improves, then the health will directly improve. Okay, and if health improves, then all the other factors, you know, if you're talking about having better living standards, all of them are going to have improvement. So in 2019, with special regards to this, Ministry of Jal Shakti was established. Okay, this is a new ministry that has been established in 2019, and this was under the Jal Jeevan mission. We also have another initiative known as the Jal Shakti Abhiyan. So this Jal Shakti Abhiyan also has a particular thing for rainwater harvesting, rainwater harvesting scheme. So that we can store and restore the water that is collected naturally. We should be able to utilize the natural water in its maximum efficiency. So these are some of the things. And if we are talking about Jal Jeevan Mission, then let's see what are the objectives around this thing. So Jal Jeevan Mission has piped water supply to all rural households by 2024. So this is, you can see, this is promised as per the Jal Jeevan Mission scheme. Also integrated demand and supply side management of water at the local level. Then the will to converge with other central and state government schemes. Of course, one scheme will have direct impact on the other schemes. So of course, there has to be overlapping of the objectives of schemes. And then creation of local infrastructure for rainwater harvesting and groundwater recharge and management of household. So as I said, that decentralization is very important. Then we will go to the WASH scheme. So what is WASH? WASH is basically, it talks about water, hygiene and sanitation, right? So all these things are interconnected. So to ensure safe and healthy habits regarding water, sanitation and hygiene. So we can see that in the recent times, also in the pandemic period, there has been lots of advertisements and campaigns regarding the hand washing thing. So hand washing facilities have drastically improved from 65% to 71% in recent times. Then we will go to Har Ghar Jal certification. So this is some certification that is given to some states and union territories under the Jal Jeevan Mission, which have 100% functional tap water facility in every rural household. So all the if a particular household has functional tap facility, and if a state has 100% FTC facility in all the districts of the state, then this certification Har Ghar Jal, which means every household has water. So this kind of certification is provided by the government. This is under the Jal Jeevan Mission. Of course, we cannot forget the very popular Swachh Bharat Abhiyan. This was launched in 2014, and one of the prior objectives was to eliminate the issue of open defecation and to improve solid waste management. There are government facilities that are provided under this scheme, like providing subsidies for constructing toilets and other infrastructures and eradication of manual scavenging, right? Then there are other yojanas like Gobardhan Yojana and individual household latrines and Swachh Vidyalaya Abhiyan. So for example, this talks about ensuring sanitation sanitation facilities in schools. Okay, so this is a support scheme that is given to the schools. So these are some of the schemes that has been discussed here. These are the important schemes rather. So now we will go to what are the way forward, what all we can do to ensure that all these things are maintained and the SDG goal number 6 is achieved as soon as possible. So one of the things that has to be done is that divulging appropriate funding for the sanitation programs. Now we know that because water is something that is enlisted both in some of the entry list of the union as well as in the state list, we have seen in the constitutional provisions. So because it is there in the union list, and some part of it is also there in the state list. So there has to be some appropriate funding, because the states get all this funding from the union government, which means that the states have to stay dependent on them. So there has to be absolutely appropriate funding for the implementation of the sanitation programs. And not only just implementation is enough, there has to be enough check, so that the implementation is actually working in reality or not, that is checked correctly. Apart from that, there has to be a reform in the sanitation laborers, of course. The manual scavenging part that I talked about, that has to be stopped, and some alternate facilities for them to have a incoming source of income, that has to be provided. Alternate incoming should be arranged for them, for their government. And inculcating scientific wastewater treatment, waste segregation methods, because we are currently living in a time where technology is taking the world by storm. So definitely we must rely on technology and depend on it for actual usages in the common people's lives. And having scientific wastewater treatment will actually help curb the issue of the release of grey water in the river systems. So there has to be waste segregation methods also. So in like nowadays, we can see in the last few many years in India, that there are many uh, from the government, sometimes they come and they have two separate baskets. The sanitation workers, they take different materials in different baskets. So for example, one has the organic items, organic waste, organic garbage, and another has the all the plastic and inorganic things. So if waste segregation is done properly, then also the plastic issue can also be curbed, because plastic can be recycled in a more efficient manner. Then teaming up of the partnerships at village level, this is of course important, because local community participation is important. Ensuring mass behavior change is very important, to include healthy mindset. That is because we still have a very unhealthy gender ratio. We have a very skewed and flawed gender situation going on when it comes to having access to basic water and sanitation facilities. Like I talked about, the woman's menstrual situation is not something that is taken care of even today by the families, even in the, of course, in the rural households, sometimes also in the urban households. So that is something that we must keep in mind. Apart from that, this open defecation thing should be changed, and mainly people's mindset should be changed. And other than that, ensuring competent capacity building officers to ensure political will and efficient decision making and proficient implementation at the ground, that has to be done. So capacity building is something that still needs to be worked upon. There has to be actual competent officers which take rigorous actions whenever they see any kind of injustice. Okay. And there has to be enough political will, there has to be enough grounds for implementation of these schemes. Just formulating the schemes are not enough, there has to be proper implementation. So all these things can be done, and if we do all these things, then certainly we can reach a place where we can have access to good quality water and sanitation facilities. So that was all for this session. Thank you. And in the next session, we are going to be talking about the sustainable goal number 7. So wait for it. Thank you.